Never thought this day would come, but now we're here. After 4 years in Q30, you'll see us on this set for the final time tonight. Our last Bobcat Breakdown starts right now. Welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Joe Lagrippo, joined alongside Jacob Resnick and Jack Main. Now, boys, we've made it 4 years and a plethora of responsibilities and experiences later. Our send-off episode is upon us.
Yeah, and it's pretty fitting that we're ending it on Bobcat Breakdown as the first show I appeared on as a first year. You were an AP our freshman year, and you, of course, were an executive producer last year, so it's kind of tying the knot on our 4 years.
Yeah, and it's also really cool that we kind of get to break out of the hard-style debate. And we're going to kind of take a trip down memory lane tonight. The best in Quinnipiac athletics over our 4 years. I'm really excited to get started here.
So let's start on the diamond. I think it's only appropriate for the three of us to start with baseball. Now, John Delaney's squad has had a rough go so far this year, 10-24 overall, 4-8 in MAC play. Now, Jacob, they lost to CCSU this afternoon. They have a 4-game homestand coming up against Manhattan this weekend, but with only 12 games remaining against MAC opponents, has time officially run out for the Bobcats this season?
Yeah, I'll be Mr. Nice Guy before Jack has his say, but I still think there's enough time left for this team.
Mets fan.
Listen, obviously, they're not exactly where they want to be, and it hasn't been the season that they hope for. But you look at the standings, they're only 2 games out of that 6th playoff spot, which is where they would sneak in to the MAC tournament. And you look at the series they have left, they're 3 winnable series for any team where Quinnipiac is or above. They've got, like you mentioned, Manhattan this weekend. They're in 7th. I think, you have the motivation factor of chasing them in the standings. St. Peter's is in 10th. Niagara is in 9th. These are winnable games, and I think they could come out on the other side of it in a pretty good spot. Obviously, they do have a series with Fairfield left, and that's going to be tough for them. But Siena, they're chasing them in the standings. They're the team that has to play the hard MAC opponents, Fairfield, Monmouth, Canisius. It's going to be tough, and I think you look at where they are now, yes, obviously it looks dangerous for Quinnipiac and their prospects, but you look at the remaining schedules, I think there's at least a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance, I am telling you there's a chance that Quinnipiac comes out on the other side of this with a playoff position.
JR, where is Iona in the MAC standings?
They're at the bottom.
They're at the bottom. How many games did Iona beat Quinnipiac this weekend?
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3? The last place team in the MAC took from Quinnipiac? And you're telling me there's a chance? You're telling me there's a chance? There are 15 pitchers that John Delaney has used. How many of them have an ERA under 6?
That's a great question.
1. And you're telling me that those boys are going to get into the postseason?
Hey, the Baltimore Orioles beat the Yankees in a series. I'd say anything's possible. But you want to talk about pitching?
Baltimore always beats New York. Just ask this guy.
Lately, a couple of years ago, no.
You want to talk about pitching? Siena's ERA is way worse than Quinnipiac's, believe it or not. We're talking about remaining schedules. I'd say they're a guarantee to come out of these last 12 MAC games with a worse record than Quinnipiac, just based on that their pitching is not going to be able to hold up against these strong teams.
And what makes you think Quinnipiac's pitching is going to do any better?
Well,
in this situation.
Well, no, I didn't say they're going to do any better because of their talent. Because they're going to be less bad than the Siena pitching.
So it's going to be who? So neither of these teams are good. It's going to be a battle of who can suck the less.
Sure. If you want to frame it that way, sure.
That is one heck of a way to get into the postseason.
That's the state of the MAC right now. You have Fairfield and everyone else. That's pretty much what it's been.
That is what we thought about basketball. We thought it was Iona and everybody else in basketball, and look who ended up making a Cinderella run. So I get it.
Coming down to playoff time, who knows what transpires when we get there. But I'd give Quinnipiac a solid chance to at least get there, and then we'll see what happens.
That is an optimistic fan, and a Mets fan at that, too. So.
Obviously, it is baseball. Anything can happen, obviously, like Jacob said. But with a not-so-talented roster, it's a different story a little bit, And if they are losing to a team like Iona, and only a few games left on the schedule to kind of make that
They also
final
beat
push.
Monmouth. They took 2 from Monmouth.
That's fair. They did take Monmouth, and but what's better, beating a team slightly better than you or losing to a team that's
Not just
way
slightly better than you.
worse?
Monmouth is up there, top 5.
But Iona's last.
Sure.
Iona's.
It
They
happens.
are
It
the
happens.
bottom of the barrel.
Any given Sunday.
2 out of 3.
Any given Sunday. All right, from baseball to softball, they're also struggling in the standings, but had some standout performances this year from freshman pitchers Jacqueline Gonzalez and Sydney Horan. Now, Jack Maine, looking long term here, who will have the better career when it's all said and done here in Hamden?
I think we have the same on this one. So I'm gonna yield. I'll let you go with the stats because that's what you do. Who's going to have the better career here is Sydney Horn, and for one reason only. The last 2 pitchers on the Quinnipiac softball team to have ERAs under 4 did not play 4 years at Quinnipiac. They were Lauren King and Lo Yarnell, and they are not on Quinnipiac softball anymore. So just by transferred property, Jackie Gonzalez, who has an ERA under 4, will not be on this team much longer. There's just something about this Quinnipiac softball team that when they have good talent and they play well in their first couple of years, they just somehow don't end up on the roster after they play well. And I have a gut feeling again that if things continue the same way, that Jackie Gonzalez will not be on this roster much longer. Not to mention, she's from California. So if she wants to go and take her talents elsewhere, she has an opportunity to go play where it's warmer, probably in better facilities, with better coaches, better teammates. Jackie Gonzalez would look to move up in the collegiate softball world, and that's the only reason why Sydney Horn would have a better career.
Jack, let me ask you a question first. What are you going to be having for breakfast on May 13th, 2027?
Are we doing a mic check here?
That's 2027? Is that 4 years?
The point being, who knows what's going to be happening down the line, and transferred, who knows. We're going to assume for the purpose of this question that both of these pitchers will be playing the rest of their careers here
big if.
in Hamden.
Big if on that squad.
I'm also going to go with Sydney Horan. We saw her pitch against Sacred Heart.
We did.
That was the team.
She was
we
nails.
took a trip to go see her, and she was fantastic. And you look at the stats. This Quinnipiac team makes a lot of errors. They lead the MAC or actually they're bottom of the MAC in fielding percentage. So when your team is going to make a lot of errors, what do you want to do as a pitcher? Make sure the ball does not get in play. So you're going to have to strike batters out. And Sydney Horan does it better than Jacqueline Gonzalez does, 15% strikeout rate compared to Gonzalez's 12. Horan also walks fewer batters. She's going to keep those runners off the base paths. And then, when the big hit does come, you're hoping that there are fewer runners on base. Also, when the runners do get into scoring position, Horan's batting average against is 10 points lower. So Sydney Horan has been very impressive for Quinnipiac this year, and we've talked about it a lot, how this program has just kind of been in flux for the last few years. And you have a player like Horan come in and as a first year, give them some stability in the rotation.
She's a lefty. She mixes in her off-speed pitches extremely well, which can make that contact, what would we like to call that exit velocity, the StatCast stats. She does a really good job at controlling all of those analytics.
They got StatCast on the Quinnipiac.
I heard
baseball
Athletics
field.
was working on StatCast if they could get it up and running.
All right, guys, well, we covered the action on the diamond. Now we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look back at Quinnipiac sports throughout our 4 years and discuss the greatest teams and players we've witnessed since 2018. See you in a bit.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life, but how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have prediabetes, a serious medical condition that puts you at high risk for type 2 diabetes. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes, but more than 80% don't know they have it. The good news is, prediabetes can be reversed, and for many people, healthy changes in their daily routine can make a big difference. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Welcome back into Bobcat Breakdown. You didn't see anything. You've certainly seen a lot over the last 4 years covering sports here. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But let's focus on the good. Jacob, who is the GOAT of Quinnipiac Athletics that you've seen since 2018?
Fate of the universe on the line. The Martians have the death beam pointed at Hamden, Connecticut.
Brendan Martin.
Almost. I want Mackenzie Deweese. You know what? I don't even care what sport it is. I want Mackenzie Deweese on my team, leading me to victory. I mean, it's just been unbelievable to watch Mackenzie Deweese over the last 4 years. Even as a first year, had a pretty significant role for that Quinnipiac women's basketball team, who I think we're going to talk about in a little bit. But just the absolute definition of a basketball player who could do it all. She could shoot, she could drive, she could dish the basketball, she could rebound better than probably anyone who we saw on this Quinnipiac women's basketball team over these 4 years, which is insane because of her height, under 6 feet, competing with some of the taller players in the MAC. Really unbelievable. Defensively, obviously, we know that she's a mop out there on the floor, cleaning up every loose ball. And just, the consummate leader, professional, not professional, amateur. But it's been really great to watch Mackenzie. And we talked about best athlete over the 4 years, not 1 year, not 2 years. She was here for these 4 years and absolutely dominated. And all these other people are going to be lucky to see her next year as well.
Yeah, first of all, Mackenzie Deweese is a phenomenal athlete. She's a great person, really kind, and she's a friend of the show. So Mackenzie Deweese, you deserve your props, and you have gotten them. Just for the sake of bringing in a second name, and we've already seen him with the lower thirds up there, but I'm going to say Rich Kelly. Now, Rich Kelly is a 2-time All-MAC player, and he only missed 3 starts in his time here at Quinnipiac, and that was over 3 years. The 2 years that we saw him, in his second year, he scored 500 points. The last player to do that before him was Cam Young, and where is Cam Young right now? He's in the G League of the NBA. So I really do believe that, Mackenzie Deweese, absolute bucket from down low, does all the gritty things that no other player wants to do. She'll dive on the floor. Rich Kelly was the facilitator that this team needed to make a run at a MAC championship. And if you remember our first year, that was the Baker Dunleavy, or maybe it wasn't our first year, but Baker's first year. He made it to the MAC semifinals, and Rich Kelly was the point guard on that team. So I got to say, for a guy that came in as a 0-star recruit. Rich Kelly didn't even know that there was a 0-star recruit possibility.
Can you get lower than that?
You cannot. And Rich Kelly worked his way up to being a MAC all-talent, scoring 500 points in one season. In 3 seasons, she reached the 1,000-point mark at Quinnipiac before transferring into the ACC. So, yeah, he didn't play 4 years here. Still a phenomenal talent. Probably my pick for the most exciting basketball player to watch at Quinnipiac, outside of Mackenzie Deweese.
I think you're just a little biased towards your blonde brethren. I don't know how many times we mistook you for his doppelganger, but yeah, great pick.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Throwing my 2 cents in here a little bit. Now, neither of these players were here for the 4 years, but I think they definitely deserve some recognition. As my time covering them as a producer for Sports Pause for Bobcat Breakdown, a lot of 2 names that stood out to me that we talked about all the time Melissa Samoskevich, women's ice hockey, and Foster Cuomo for men's lacrosse. Those were 2 athletes who were on our shows all the time, leading in goals, leading in assists, points, whatever it was in their respective categories. We were always talking about those two, so I felt like I needed to recognize them.
I like that, and if you were going to say that, in the fall sports world, Eamon Whalen, one of the greatest soccer players in the history of Quinnipiac's program. So that's another guy that we cannot forget to mention. If honorable mentions were a thing here.
Let's go now a step further. Jack, we'll start with you. Who is the best team we've seen since our freshman year?
Now we're talking team, specific sport, and year.
Yes. 1 year, 1 team, got to win a game. There was none better than the Quinnipiac women's basketball team our first year on campus. Undefeated in MAC play for the 2nd straight year. I can't do quick maths. 18 plus 18 is 36.
We're journalism majors.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. They won 36 straight MAC games, and they were in the MAC tournament. Swept the floor with the MAC tournament. Jacob's going to get onto the stats a little bit later here, but they had, I believe, 7 players who shot above 35%, and 3 of those shot above 40%. That hasn't happened with qualified shooters since that 2019 team that went and was the best in MAC play. You can see they're cutting down nets. They deserve to cut down nets. Jen Fay is back with the team as an assistant coach. She is going to move up very quickly in the coaching world. That team, you needed a win. They were guaranteed a win in conference play.
Yeah, you ever play 2K and you look at the teams that are available, and then you go to the all-time teams.
Yeah.
Like the best players in Celtics history or whatever. If you were to build an all-time Quinnipiac women's basketball team, I think you just take that team right there, because you had the collection of 2 eras come together. You have your starting 5: Erin McClure, Paula Stratmanet, Brittany Martin, Edel Thornton, Jen Fay, like you mentioned. Taylor Hurd didn't even have a starting spot on that team. Came off the bench, 6th player of the year. Paige Warfel, Jaden Ward, that's 2 players who ended up starting the next year.
Yep.
Kiara Bikini had a big role when she came back from injury. And then at the end of the bench, Amani Free and Mackenzie Deweese as first years. So unbelievable depth on that team. Like you mentioned, 18-0 in conference. And then in the MAC tourney, their average margin of victory in those 3 games was 28 points.
Yeah, this just goes to prove that Trish Fabry is not only the greatest coach at Quinnipiac right now, but she is arguably the greatest coach in the MAC conference for any of the sports. She is by far, first of all, an amazing woman, always welcoming, always energetic. You did not want to get in her way when she needed to get a victory.
Yeah.
Best team on campus.
Special honorable mention to the 29 Quinnipiac baseball team as well. Obviously, beating East Carolina in the NCAA tournament. I know we were going to maybe mention them a little bit, but hard to beat that women's basketball team.
How far did that Liam Scaffarello home run go?
I think it's still traveling.
It's up there.
We'll break the StatCast once we get it installed.
Elon Musk is his next investment is to go get a rocket to go find that baseball.
Sure.
All right, guys, we've been focusing obviously a lot on the past during this block, but let's look forward to the future of Quinnipiac athletics before we leave. Jacob, what do you think of the future that Bobcat sports should look like?
Yeah, it's a good question, and one that I think I'm looking forward to following over the next few years. I mean, once you're here, you're a Bobcat for life, and we're always going to be tuned into what's going on. I think the interesting thing to keep tabs on is what conference they're in. Next year, I think they'll still be in the MAC, but potentially the year after that. And going forward, we saw Monmouth take the step up to the CAA, and I know Quinnipiac's been looking at some options like the America East. I think we're going to be hearing some more news about that as we go forward. But this is obviously a department that has big aspirations. We've seen the investment they've put into their facilities, not for all teams, but for a good portion of their teams. And I think the name recognition is starting to get out there much more than it had in previous years. And I think it's definitely a department on the rise. There are obviously a lot of things that need to be kind of tightened up, and teams that I know we've talked about accountability in the past, so we'll see what happens with that. But looking forward to seeing, like I said, what conference is this Quinnipiac department playing in going forward?
Outside of the 4 sports that play up on York Hill and acro and tumbling as well, this athletic department is really struggling right now. Just in the spring alone, so far, Quinnipiac spring sports are 28-65 overall. That's every single team combined. Now, we don't take into account that golf and women's tennis have already won MAC championships. But if you look at just the eye test from Quinnipiac Athletics, it's not there. You have the five team, up on York Hill that have amazing facilities, great access to just about anything they could want, basically treated like, professional athletes. And then you have down here a middle school field for your baseball stadium, a low-level softball field, a national championship rugby team not just 4 years ago that shares a field with the intramural teams here at Quinnipiac. So I really do believe that there are going to be a lot of things that have to change just for Quinnipiac Athletics to be on the right track, and I believe it starts in that athletic department. Let's make the athletes a little bit more accessible. They want to talk to us. They have come forward and said that they want to talk to us, and we want to talk to them to just continue to, make that divide come closer between the student athletes and the rest of the Quinnipiac community. So there's a lot of things that have to go right, and I believe that there is the opportunity for that to happen, but it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, well, it was fun ping-ponging between you guys all night. We're going to take you guys now on a little journey back in time and reflect on our best memories from the fields, the courts, and the rinks throughout the years. We hope you enjoy this trip down memory lane with us. We've had an amazing 4 years here at Quinnipiac and at Q30 Television, so we thought it would be cool to go back and reminisce at some of the places where we've covered games here throughout the years. This is the field where I covered my first game for Q30. Two upperclassmen pulled me aside and asked me if I wanted to film a men's soccer game for them. So of course, 18-year-old me said yes, and I was so excited to do it. It was awesome. It was my first experience in the element, and obviously it led to many more great experiences.
So this wasn't the first place that I covered a game, but this was the first subject that I had a story on. I did a feature piece on Megan and Cassidy Phillips my sophomore year because I joined Q30 late. And by that point, we were already starting to get rumblings that Megan was becoming this goalie phenom for the women's soccer team, and then ended up leading the team to a MAC championship berth. So that was a really cool experience for myself.
Yeah, a lot of cold fall afternoons spent here at the soccer and lacrosse stadium. I actually came here for the first time on a tour the year before our freshman year. So now to see it, I guess 5 years later now, is really something special. And how about the dominance from both the soccer programs? 10 playoff games were played here during our 4 years. Just really some of the greatest memories, obviously. But the men's team did lose twice in the championship game, but those are really exciting. Packed houses here at the Quinnipiac Soccer Stadium.
It goes unsaid about how many fans actually did pull up to the soccer and lacrosse games, because we go to basketball and we go to women's hockey and we go to baseball, and there's not a ton of fans there. But don't take for granted the Bobcat faithful that come out and support the men's and women's soccer programs, because they roll deep. They roll really deep.
Now we're going to make our way up to York Hill at the People's United Center to reminisce about our ice hockey and basketball experiences. Obviously, guys, a lot of memories in the People's United Center. Here in the basketball court, Jack, kick us off.
Yeah, I covered men's basketball for 3 years. I started in my sophomore year, had the COVID year through the junior year, and then had one final ride here with probably the best beat team that I could have ever asked for. I have so many memories here, from Cam Young being just one of the best basketball players I've ever seen in person, to Rich Kelly scoring his 1,000th point, Jacob Rigoni scoring his 1,000th point, seeing guys like Luis Courtwright and Taimu Shinnery get some big playing minutes in their first couple of seasons. And then also on the women's side, watching Mackenzie DeWeese develop into one of the best players in the MAC, watching Indiana, number 4 ranked Indiana, come here and play Quinnipiac on their home court. Those are all just memories that just absolutely fantastic, and things that I'll always remember in my time here at Quinnipiac.
Yeah, and especially how about watching Trish Fabry go to work every single day, and how well she runs that program has just been unbelievable to watch. Anyone who loves basketball should love watching Trish Fabry run her team. Really fantastic. The players that come through that program, really unbelievable. But gonna miss walking into this place and covering games.
Yeah, I know both of you obviously had a lot of memories here. A lot of my memories came over there in the ice hockey side, where I got to cover the women's ice hockey team in my freshman year, my sophomore year. I got to do a lot of cool stuff beat reporting was something that I wanted to do for a living coming into my college career, and I got that experience for 2 years. Got to cover NCAA Women's Frozen Four, got to interview players and coaches, got to see Melissa Samoskevich, who, and you said Cam Young was one of the best players you've ever seen. Melissa Samoskevich was a super talented ice hockey player that, I got to see in person and got to talk to a little bit. So those were really cool experiences that I got as well. All right, guys, we've talked hockey, we've talked basketball. Now let's swing it on down. Let's go to the diamond. That's crazy. Who put that there? Throw out the peace signs. See ya. Breaking out the leather, let's talk some baseball, guys. Obviously, you guys are going to have a lot of experiences on this field.
Yeah, luckily I got to cover this team my freshman year in 2019, and I don't think you could have asked for a better season than that. They had that late season run, and then in the MAC tournament, big run there, walk-off win in the championship game, and then obviously making it to North Carolina, the NCAA tournament. Was fortunate enough to go there and cover it with Kevin Higgins, Steve Pappas, Liz Flynn. They won a game down there against East Carolina, and it was just the most amazing experience, really rewarding, and really what kind of made me feel comfortable here at Q30, and just an experience that I'll hold near and dear to my heart.
So I was supposed to be on this beat probably sophomore year with these two guys, except that I blew my interview with the sports director at the time. So I ended up being placed on the softball beat. I got about a series of softball coverage before the pandemic happened. So the next year I improved my interview, and I was with Jacob and Pappas on the beat, and nothing will be more humbling than spending 6 hours at this field and getting your ass cooked by the sun because you don't have enough sunscreen, don't have enough water.
Thanks for joining the three of us on this little trip down memory lane. Obviously, we've had a lot of friendships, a lot of experiences, and a lot of memories, and we thank Q30 for all that.
Yeah, especially the people who came before us, who showed us the way. We mentioned a few of the people who kind of took us under their wing and really showed us how all this is done, and I think I speak for all of us when I say we can only hope that we pass that same thing on to everyone who's younger than us. So it's all about paying it forward, and we, like Joe said, really appreciate everything Q30 has given to us.
And the work that we do, we hope rubs off onto future generations that come through student media, and we're just really excited to have been a part of it for so long.
Hey, there's no crying in baseball, okay? Our eyes are dry for now. That was really fun. That was fun. We enjoyed reminiscing about our favorite memories for covering sports for Q30. Now it's almost time for our final goodbyes to the station after this commercial break. We're going to give our parting words. Stay right with us.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Joe, spotlight on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things. but they're all pure love.
Here it is. Our final Q30 moments are upon us. Jack Maine, the floor is yours.
Now would be an appropriate time to say, holy smokes. I hope everyone who tuned in tonight knows who's on their screen and who is behind it, the very people that bring you 2 sportscasts every single week. One thing that should tell you about our graduating class is that we pushed the envelope. We faced adversity. Ross and I rebranded student organizations, which took them to new heights. We caught the eyes of parents, athletes, coaches, and other students on campus who kept pushing us to go to the next level. You can look at any number of the individual projects and accomplishments that would highlight who we are. Jacob's award-winning baseball articles, Joe's standout package about parking, Eric Kerr's recognition with the volleyball team, and Lo Yarnell being named Quinnipiac's top sports journalist for the school year, and that's just to name a few. The individual accolades are outstanding on their own, but the work that we did together stands as far and away my favorite work. This past March, when the basketball beat team went down to Atlantic City, we found Quinnipiac was the only MAC school not to send any support from a pep band or a dance team, and not a student section at all. When we ran the story, we faced a lot of pushback from the athletic department, specifically when the assistant athletic director said it would be a better look if the school sent 0 fans than the 22 who were available to go. The very next day, the school organized a free bus to send students to both hockey playoff tournaments. Our work paid off for the betterment of the school, and we saw the strength of our work and how much we impacted this school for the better. We came to Quinnipiac wide-eyed, maybe a little egotistical, but eager to learn. We now leave Quinnipiac as professionals employed at ESPN, SNY, Yes Network, and NBC affiliates, and that's just to name a few, with many more announcements on the way. So keep watching us and keep getting to know the next wave of sports journalists who are ready to step into the world and represent Quinnipiac proudly.
3 years ago, I sat up here with Aaron and Andrew Robinson representing the under 6 foot club. 2 years ago, I joined my Mets brethren, Stephen Pappas and Kevin Higgins, and last year, mask and all, I sat here with one of my favorite people in the world, in Liz Flynn. Each time, this moment felt so far away. As each class cycled out, I kept telling myself how much time I had left, and turns out I couldn't have been more wrong. So here we are, my last time on the desk, and one final chance to say thank you to everyone who made these 4 years the best I could have asked for. Freshman year wasn't easy for me, but the upperclassmen who took me under their wing made a world's difference. Shortly after my first year, I traveled with Steve, Kevin, and Liz down to North Carolina to cover the Quinnipiac baseball team and the NCAA tournament, and I never felt out of place again. I came back in the fall of sophomore year with confidence and a group of friends to call my own. I worked closely with Brian Schwartz and knew if the chance came, I would jump at the opportunity to replace him as sports director and carry on the torch. And here we are, 2 years later. I could not be more proud of the work I've done running this department. Despite a pandemic that wiped out an entire sports season and caused difficulties with the rest, I'm overjoyed with everything the department has accomplished. And of course, none of it would be possible without the hard work of every single member, every single day. Thank you to everyone who has stood by my side over the last 4 years, many of them in this room, but too many to name individually. Just know that your passion and dedication to your craft is inspiring and is what keeps me working at my best. The future of Q30 is in phenomenal hands, and my advice to you all is simple. Appreciate every moment, find joy in the hard work, and stick with the people whose eyes light up every time you walk into the media suite. I can't say it enough, but thank you, Q30, for everything from the bottom of my heart.
Q30 Television, where do I even start? I was an 18-year-old from Long Island that came to Hamden, Connecticut, and had no clue how my life was about to be changed forever by a student-run television station. Now, opportunity is the word I always use when describing the organization. No matter how experienced you are, Q30 gives you that opportunity to try something new and make mistakes. But most importantly, Q30 puts you in the position to succeed. Within the first month of my freshman year, I was interviewing athletes on camera and was an associate producer for this very show. Then I covered the women's ice hockey team for 2 years, attending press conferences, speaking with players and coaches, writing articles, creating packages, learning how to edit, covering a Frozen Four, and I loved every single second of it. But it was producing that I really fell in love with. I have countless memories being an AP for Breakdown and then an executive producer for Sports Pause. The lessons learned and experiences I was given are something that I will forever be grateful for. It wasn't until my sophomore year where Jolo became somewhat of a household name. I'd like to thank you, but also say sorry to the producers of Holiday Hottie 2 years ago. But bringing me back was a pretty epic moment for me, and it broke me out of my shell a bit. At the end of my sophomore year, when my Q30 experience went to a level I never imagined. I was elected as the next president of the station in March of 2020, but was promptly hit with a pandemic, and we had to manage through that as a team. It wasn't fun, but we made it out on the other side. I learned a ton of life lessons and how to manage a large group of people. I was re-elected for my senior year, and we set out to improve the station drastically. And we did so with the new set behind me, the new equipment behind the scenes. All of this wouldn't be possible without the hard work and dedication of everyone in Q30, especially the cabinet. The amount of work that the 9 others on the staff put in every single day can't go unnoticed, and every one of them put their best foot forward 24/7. I want to thank you all for everything you've done. At first we were colleagues, and now we're family. And speaking of family, I'll finish it off by saying thank you to my parents, my family, and my friends for the continued support throughout the years. I wouldn't be here without you. I know there are a ton of more people to thank, but it would be impossible to say thank you to all right now. Whether we worked together, talked in the suite, said hi on the quad, whatever, watched a Q30 show throughout the years, thank you. I can't wait to see how Q30 flourishes in the near future with all the talent up and coming. And before I go, I want to say thank you to Q30 for everything. You've taught me everything I know. This organization will forever hold a special place in my heart.